Hi, my name is Sevi, and this week we're going to be presenting on the lesson of Carousel Geography, the Aesthetics of Endurance. So we had two main readings this week, one by Stephen Dillon and one by Brett Story. Stephen Dillon's piece, Nothing Stirred in the Air, really focused on how people in the prison system, in this way we're talking about the physical prison, are very much suffocated and isolated from the rest of society. The prisons are used as a way to sort of mute you and really make you feel like compounded in a sense where like they have no touch of communication with the outside world, no sense of like feeling involved in society. They're very much muted and yeah, just very, very claustrophobic, very confined. Brett Story's piece, Fire Camp Highway Coal Mine, Geographies of the Carousel, was about how prisons, not just the physical being, but the prison system is intertwined in all of society. It is not, it is a infrastructure, not architecture. That's the difference. Architecture is just a building, just, a piece of a physical establishment. But infrastructure is a working of motions, of relationships, communication, connection. It is not just a being. So within Dylan's piece, we also got a poem by Kataya Komisaruk, excuse me if I pronounced that wrong, They're Searching, which showed us how prisoners actually use art, poetry, writing mostly to communicate, to feel connected with the outside world. So in his piece, it's showing a lot of suffocation, and this was their way of kind of fighting against that, using it as endurance, using it as resistance, and having art be that sense of connection when you're feeling so limited by the prison system. So this week we also screened The Prison in 12 Landscapes, which was Brett Story's. She directed this after the piece that we read, and then we got a snippet from Calls from Home by Sylvia Ryerson. So Calls from Home was a very short snippet about a radio broadcast where you can send in messages to loved ones in the prison system, and this will get played for them. They all have access to this. So this was a way of breaking through that communication. Obviously, in Dylan's piece, he talks about how you're so isolated, so far away from everything. So this is kind of a way to break through that barrier. And even though it's not a two-way stream of communication, you're still getting something from your loved ones. And on the other side, they're still getting to make their piece, say what they want to say, and know that it's getting heard. The Prison in 12 Landscapes was pretty much just putting Brett Story's story into action. So we saw 12 different landscapes, 12, normal everyday scenarios like firefighters, or in the first clip, we have someone who is selling items to go to prisons, just regular everyday places that you would have no idea are completely intertwined with the prison system. You know, things that we separate so much because people just see prison as jail, as bars, as four walls, and that's where people are. And that's in a lot of ways how the prison system wants their prisoners to feel. But this is not the truth. And that's what the Prison in 12 Landscapes shows us, is that these are fully connected, fully thriving off of each other. And it's a mutually beneficial relationship, our society and the prison system. So the theme I took away from this week was the prisons as a common. So a common is like the ocean or some very big environment that we all use. We all go in throughout. We're all a part of it. And so the prison system is kind of being shown as this common. We may not know it, but it is a carousel of geography, which is intertwined in everyday spaces like labor work, city planning, public policy, economic stability. They shape where people live, where money flows, what landscapes look like. There's the jobs directly at the prison that are affected, thousands, millions, and then all the societal jobs that just connect because the way that prisons can flow us economy. So there's a lot of people that actually rely on this that you would have no idea, and our society actually strongly feeds off of it, whether we know it or not. So that was my biggest takeaway. And then I did want to talk about what other systems in society, like the healthcare system, for example, have you realized are also intertwined in most people's everyday life. So some system that you think is very isolated, but really, if it shut down how would that impact everyone else because we don't realize how intertwined it really is. And then I also said, how can art forms such as music, as mentioned in the film, and writing help improve the quality of life for prisoners? And how can we help this level of access? So, for example, in the film, it was talked about how like CDs are not allowed to be sent because they can be sharp, but they're looking at a sustainable way to make cassettes that are allowed to get through. So it's things like that, like what sort of solutions are there to get the arts into the prison system and help prisoners feel more connected in society? Good questions. But thank you for watching, and I'm excited for next week.